to refer back to. In fact, let's begin by looking back on the main topic from the last issue, health and safety. Here we are in 1993, and believe it or not, on the 1st of January, all 6 EC directives on health and safety did come into effect right on cue. Among other things, the directives called for comprehensive accident reporting. The captain's log here at the new Mere Green store is looking good so far. But the time has come when it really makes sense to record accidents onto a central computer, and Rodney Parkinson of Retail Logistics is leading a working party to determine the best method of recording customer and staff accidents across the whole group. The EC directives also stipulate that there should be clear company policy on any operation that could have health or safety implications. To that end, generic manual handling and personal protective equipment risk assessments have been carried out for all the operations that take place within a JS store. The Retail Health and Safety Initiative is now being coordinated by Senior Store Manager David Mellows-Facer and Deputy Manager Diana Watson, both of whom are on short-term secondment to branch operations at Blackfriars. They'll be presenting their conclusions to you in due course, which will create a consistent policy across all the stores. And now, I think it's safe to say we can share the story of a West Midlands branch of Asda. Don't worry, it has a happy ending. 1992, a retail review cameraman on a covert operation to Sutton Coldfield managed to obtain this sensational film of an ordinary branch of Asda. Or was the branch so ordinary? For just a few weeks later, the situation had changed completely. The signs, they were changing. Taking the Asda A-frame out and putting this here in just 7 weeks was not only a good way of raising local property values, it was a major feat of engineering. David Smith, you've achieved an amazing transformation. What were your objectives?
Well, there were 2 main objectives, really. One was to turn the Asda building into a JS store, and secondly, to turn the Asda workforce into a JS staff in just 7 weeks.
How did you do that?
Well, the first thing we've done as regards the building was to lower the ceiling height, installed new improved lighting, which give us a brighter, more warming environment. We then stripped out the sales area completely, refitting with entirely new gondolas, new refrigerated cabinets, and putting in a new delicatessen and bakery counter. Of course, we removed the traditional Asda A-frame from above the entrance of the store. We were able to remove a big retaining wall and pillar that was used to divide the produce and entrance from the rest of the store. And in so doing, we were able to open up the front of the store and therefore making it much more inviting for the customer.
You said there were 2 objectives. What about the people? How did you turn Asda staff into JS people?
Well, that was quite a task in itself, a big logistics exercise. We had to train 233 Asda staff into the JS way. Now, this was done. We transported them out to our supporting stores. We provided in-store instructors. We then give them intensive training. And what we were doing really was giving them new skills to meet our own manning requirements.
How on earth were you able to achieve all of that in just 7 weeks?
Well, I think it was the enormous effort that everybody made that was involved in this opening. It really was a major achievement.
Well, congratulations are certainly due to the quick change artists in Sutton Coldfield, where, as the saying goes, their loss is our gain. Last year, the management appraisal system was itself appraised and came out of its review with 4 new targets. First, to improve the contribution that each member of management makes to the business and to improve their performance so they can achieve that contribution. Where training needs exist, these will be responded to and career aspirations will be supported. These are noble aims for any appraisal system, making it much more than just a basis for allocating pay reviews. How will it work in practice? The appraisal process takes place in 2 stages. The first stage takes place in January and February, where, as you'll be aware, performance is reviewed against your targets. The objective here is to identify your achievements and assess the problems that you've been facing. This takes place during a discussion between you and your manager. The emphasis has to be on openness and honesty. Soon afterwards, everyone receives their rating, which provides the basis for the March salary review. That takes us up to the second stage of the appraisal process, which is just as important because it sets out meaningful targets, mutually agreed between yourself and your manager for the year to come. There'll be no more than 6 of these targets because they will challenge you. They are, however, designed so that with commitment, you'll certainly be able to achieve them. As I said, these targets are meaningful. They'll be directly related to your store's business objectives. So, when your performance is reviewed in the following year, you'll be able to get a clear picture of your contribution to your store. Your manager will also be wanting to discuss your career aspirations and the opportunities that you'll need to achieve them. Targets are not just set and then left for the year. Development and training to achieve your targets is an important part of the appraisal process. This support package may include training courses, project work, coaching, job swaps, secondments, and visits to other locations. It's also important for managers to continue assessing their people throughout the year, to build up an accurate picture of their people's progress. That all adds up to an important new approach to appraisal. Later in the programme, Colin Harvey will be talking about the major benefits that he expects to see coming out of the new appraisal process. JS has already won the Investors in People Award, and these appraisals are the latest step in the company's commitment to its people. There are high expectations that as the year progresses, the new system will be getting top ratings from all concerned. Welcome to the JS store in Camden, which just for today has a brand new department. The Effective Working Practice Department. Its shelves are brimming with tips and pointers on how you can increase the efficiency of your store. Perhaps you're wondering why I'm walking like this. I'm in training for the L-shaped walkathon. Is there one being held in your store? No, it's not a charity event. Nobody at all benefits from the hundreds of L-shaped walkathons that are taking place even now in stores around the country. Pick up the product, walk 3 steps, back 3 steps, walk 3 more steps, and back yet another 3 more steps. Believe it or not, staff are walking and carrying goods tens of thousands of miles every year. It may be keeping them fit, although it's more likely to be giving them back problems. But it's costing your business a lot of wasted time. Business experts have laboured hard and long to come up with a solution. And here it is. Yes, it seems simple, but considering the amount of time wasted, the loads carried and the distance travelled, correct positioning of L-shapes is not a petty matter, but a very useful way to conserve resources. And if staff insist on marathon walking, there are a lot more constructive ways in which they can do it. Edward Bonner, you're the manager of retail financial control and therefore very much involved in determining branch labour standards. To be frank, tips on working practice such as the correct positioning of the L shape do seem to be fairly minor things. Why do you feel it's so important that management teams actually take them to heart?
Well, I think first of all we'd all like to avoid unnecessary work if we could, and the wasted resources that involves. I think secondly, a lot of little things that seem unimportant, when you add them up, they come to quite a different sum. Take your walkathon, the L-shape example. I've worked out that would cost in an average branch something in the order of 10 hours per week. Now, if you multiply that across the company, it's about 800 hours a day, or about £1.5 million in a year.
Have you got any other examples of that?
Yes. We looked at Cobham branch and the use of staff time to walk the store in order to find members of staff to come and open another till. And would you believe that actually amounted to about 12 hours per week just walking the store to find the staff. So we've introduced a trial using personal communications, that's bleepers answering back to the telephone at the front end service desk. That will obviously lead to a saving in the order of 12 hours a week, if we can establish that. Another example would be where the delivery documentation, which has recently been changed because of the vehicle loading system being introduced, is still being double and triple checked in offices. And we found that that would amount to about 3 or 4 hours a week in administration clerical work. So there's another example of a working practice that can and should be changed.
These are examples of the negative impact of poor working practice. What about the other side of the coin, the positive contribution that teams can make?
Yes, well, effective working practice is, of course, directed mainly towards better customer service, which is ultimately what we're all about. We discovered in a number of stores that the mis-scanning rate was very high, largely due to a lack of cleanliness of the glass on the scanner. So we introduced a program where effectively we clean as we go. The impact of that is to reduce mis-scans to such an extent that each customer gains a few seconds on going through the checkouts. Now, if you add that up, you get a much more efficient, a speedier throughput for every customer at the front end of the store. Another example is in the cash office. We examined the real tasks of the cash office, and we discovered that they were actually suffering from two main problems: the number of interruptions they had throughout the working day and doing work that wasn't really cashier's work. So we experimented with two things. We introduced opening and closing times for cash office, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. And we also took some work away into the general office. Now, the impact of that has been that we have the customers of the cash office, if you like, within the store, who now get a much speedier service. They don't have to wait. They're much happier as they come to the cash office. They're dealt with. The cash office staff themselves get on with their work. They're much more productive. They've gained a degree of accuracy, and there are less discrepancies in the cash office reconciliations. Now, that kind of thing, if applied across the group, is probably worth something where in the order of 100 to 200 hours a week, depending on how we implement it.
Where do suggestions come from?
Well, I'm hoping we're going to get them from stores. And the idea is that if staff in stores have got good ideas, we'd like them to come up to us and we'll have a look at them and see if they're implementable.
It sounds like answers on a postcard, please.
Yes, very much so. I think that good ideas need to be shared. And if effective working practice is to be successful in the years ahead, it'll be because people in stores, management and staff, tell us better ways to run the stores and better ways to be more productive and more efficient in giving that customer service.
Well, there it is, the Edward Bonner Challenge. Who could resist it? Certainly not our next guest. We often hear about military dictators indulging in a bit of sabre rattling, but our own retail director, well, it's true. Colin Harvey has a brand new sabre to show you, and it really does deliver the goods. Colin, everyone should by now be familiar with Sabre's initial phase, the disposals reporting. After all, it's now 18 months since it first began to be rolled out across the stores. What next for Sabre?
Well, it's going to be followed by the installation of the first Sabre ordering pilot at a branch in August. The emphasis here will be on sales forecasting for perishables. That's a radical change for